zones in general have this big issue of pulling way too hard into unplayable areas. Like on this image you can see, for example, this image is literally right off the bat zone 1. Zone 1 has like 20% of the zone unplayable area. And then zone 2 is already 50% unplayable area. You can already see there's this big mountain in the middle cuts off half the zone. But not only that, there's a big mountain that is on the outside of the map. Like this mountain doesn't even belong to the map. It's basically just a barrier to blocking. Like the barrier of this mountain is just there to keep anyone from going outside of the map. Like it's not an unplayable area. So why is it in the zone? It just doesn't make any sense. Like why can't this zone just pull out? Like, so this is the zone. This is the zone, right? And well, we can literally just do it. Like, I don't mind it. This zone ended right here, right? This zone ended right here on the Geyser G. I do not mind it. Like, it can definitely end on the Geyser G. I would prefer, like, it's a good one. At least it doesn't end on the respawn beacon. Like, but we can still keep these zones. But all I want is for them to be more playable, right? These zones needs to be more playable. So if we just move this zone like this, literally just move it out. And now there's so much more playable space. Look at the difference here. You just look at the difference. Let's do another circle. Make it as big as the other one, first of all. Make it similar big. You know, circle's gotta be as big as it usually is. Now we just move this. Like, just by simply moving out this zone, but just by a little bit. Just by a little bit. You're creating so much more space. Like, this zone went from, like, hosting 12 teams to fucking 20. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, we literally just went from hosting 12 teams to 20 teams. There's so much more playable space at the moment. If we just keep doing this for every zone is gonna be more playable. And the games are gonna play out way healthier. Do you see how far out this zone is pulling? It's the same anywhere. Like, it's literally all the way up here. Usually the trial skyhook zones. There's so many examples of these zones where there's a lot of unplayable area when it doesn't have to be. Like, there's no reason for it. Also, like, as long as the zone keeps being like this, you know? Like, the zone can end down here. That's, like, I don't prefer it. Like, I would love to see zone endings should end, like, at least 50 to 100 meters out from an unplayable area, so we don't go into the furthest choke. Like, for example, this ending up here is complete dog shit. This ending up here is complete dog shit. Because you have to pull out into the entire mountain. If you just move this zone out here, it's completely playable for everyone. It's so much better. Instead of ending all the way in the choke. Like, for example, like, we can keep doing these circles, to be honest. For example, next zone maybe looks something like this. Look at how progressively the zones get so much better. I'm literally just shooting off the hip here on the sizes, by the way, but like, in general, if you can, like, you know what I'm getting at, though. You know what I'm getting at, like, how I want the zones to be. Like, if they just keep going like this, then we're, like, in such a good spot. And we move that there, and then the last one is, like, this big, right? These zones are just so much more playable because it just creates so much more area for people to play. Like, instead of it ending out here, you can even see that, you can see the comparison. Like, just this small of a difference creates so much space, especially on the second zone. Especially on the second zone. Because the second and the third zone is what matters the most, right? The second and the third zone is what matters the most. Because that's when the least amount of teams can play. And that's when these clusterfucks creates. So if we have more, if we want to create less clusterfucks when people, like, 10 teams collapse in the same area. And have them play out way more smoother. Like, if the game will be way more fluent. And they will play out way more consistent. Like, instead of, like, you have way more 3v3 fights. Like, fair fights. Instead of everyone collapsing in the same area. And then it's just, bam, everyone dies at the same time. Like, it's way better for viewers as well. Like, it's so hard for a viewer to catch up to what's going on when it's just a big when it's a big clusterfuck. Like, how are you as a viewer supposed to understand what's happening when 10 teams are fighting at the same time? It's so much more fun to watch fluent 3v3 fights. Say for example, the fucking TSM is rotating from this hill down here. They have to rotate to this choke. NRG is holding this choke. TSM versus NRG, it's a 3v3 fight. They have the isolated 3v3 fight. Viewers can watch this fight. Instead of, if the zone comes here, it's ending literally in the choke where nobody can play. So then it's NRG versus TSM versus CLG versus SF versus versus the entire lobby. And nobody can follow what's happening. It's just like nades, abilities, fucking bullets, everything. Everything's flying around and you have no clue what's going on. And then you're like, woohoo! TSM won! And then you're like, yay! I have no clue what's going on, but TSM won. Woohoo! When zones pull like this weird and just make into unplayable areas, it just makes them really bad. Like, it's fine for the zone to end here. Like, I prefer zones to not end here. I would much rather prefer that this circle right here, like this end circle, I never want them to end like far down into a choke. I never want them to end here. Ideally, you want all the zones to be like the center of the fucking thing. The best geyser zones are the ones that end around the geyser. Like, they're centralized. Center of the drop spot is the best one because then you have so much more playable space. Like, we can just move this entire thing and then we have like, there's so many more teams that can play, so many more fun fights to happen instead of everyone coming at the same time and everyone dying at the same time. I don't like it when the zones are unplayable. It makes the game bad. It creates unfun fights. It creates clusterfucks that are simply just RNG. Like, there's like no skill revolving around people collapsing in the same area, because at that point it's just people. That's just all about luck. When you are 5 teams fighting in the same area, is at the end of the day, it's not about skill. Sure, some skill is involved. But at the end of the day, it's all about who gets focus or not. It's about which team gets the least amount of focus. And that's just not fun. It's not fun for a viewer. It's not fun for a competitor. We want to reduce the amount of RNG as much as possible. And that should be the goal. Okay, so these are the future changes we're gonna get. These are really good changes, by the way. Like, these changes for competitive play and for high rank play is really good, by the way. And what's happening is like, so basically the amount of time before the ring starts closing gets reduced. So instead of waiting in the zone for 2 minutes, you're now waiting in 1 minute 45 seconds. And the time the zone takes to shrink has been extended. So instead of the zone closing in 33 seconds, it now closes in 40 seconds. Ring 5, instead of it closing in 20 seconds, it closes in 40 seconds. That's double. That's literally double. And then ring 6 has also been increased. So these are really good changes. I would love to see this being implemented more. I think, like, even though these are really good changes, I want them to do it even more, right? This is a good first step, but I want them to they could literally double it again. So that's what I want to talk about again. Like, this is a really good direction that Respawn is taking. A really good direction that they're stepping. But I want this to be more changed. So these are the current values. Current values of the zones. Where round 1, wait period for the ring to like to start closing is 3 minutes, and the time to close, the ring shrinking, is 3 minutes 45. I think this should be changed so that the first the first wait period should be like 1 minute 30 seconds. And then the time to close should be about 5 minutes. The wait period 1 minute 30 seconds. Time to close 5 minutes. And then wait period 1 minute. This one could literally just be 1 minute, and then they add the other, like the 145 here. So the time to close is 2 minutes and 30 seconds. I basically, what I'm saying about this is that I want the zone to move super slowly. Like, I want the zone to move super slow, but almost all the time. Because at the moment we have this, like, the zone takes 3 minutes to close, and then like brrr, it's closed. And that's contributing to the clusterfuck. Like, the zone moving so fast in the end just contributes to the big clusterfuck, which they are helping here. They are helping here, but they're only doing it for from ring 4. and it needs to be more. I want them to do it from the start, like zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, zone 4, zone 5, zone 6. The game time, total game time stays the exact same. You just take the values from the wait period and you add them to the time to close. So that the wait period is really short and then the time to close period is really long. Like the zone 4 and the zone 5, like you can't even outrun it. Like if you're at the edge of the storm, you can barely outrun it. It's kind of stupid. Like you want to be able to fight. If you can actually fight while zone is closing, that is gonna change so much about the game. Because at the moment, it's just like, if a team is gatekeeping you zone 4, you're just dead. Unless they're dog shit. You're simply just dead. Like there's nothing you can do. Because you take 20 ticks from the storm while you have to shoot, and if you don't shoot, then the other team probably does 200 damage to you. Because that's another part of the RNG, is like whoever gets zone first, right? If you land Geyser and you get this, if you land Geyser and the zone ends here and you don't win the game, you suck. I'm sorry to tell you, but if you get a Geyser zone and you land Geyser and you play this building entire game and you don't win the game, you suck. So it's literally, that's a big RNG factor of the game. And making the zones slower and more healthy fights, you're gonna help contribute to the, like, to the health of the game and make the competitive games a lot more interesting, where people just don't die to zone because someone had a better position, basically. Like, of course, the guys with better position is always gonna have the advantage, but it's gonna even out the fight more. And it's gonna allow more of those fights to happen in general. So that is like one of my big suggestions, is zones needs to have an algorithm where they pull away from an unplayable area in general. Like, it should not be acceptable that a zone ends next to an unplayable area. Literally, like, I've seen zones end in lava, literally. Zones end in lava. Zones end inside a fucking mountain and shit like that. I've seen zones that are like this from the start. Like, hello? Why do we have a zone that is literally, and like where 15% or 20% of the zone is already outside the map over here? Like, why? Why? Why can't we just pull it up? Just do it like this? That is so much better. Why would you ever want a zone like this when you can have it like this? But that is something that really needs to change, how the zones work. The algorithm. It's kind of like PUBG, right? PUBG has a algorithm that is like every single zone. This zone is always going to pull a certain distance away from a object. The object could be a mountain, the object could be water, the object could be something that is unplayable. So for example, so the first zone is like this, like we want it to. Then we do another one like this. One more. This one is always, like zone 5 is always going to pull away from a mountain or an unplayable area. So this is the mountain, right? Which means the zone cannot end next to the mountain. The zone cannot end right here. Instead, the zone is always going to pull out away from it. So basically it ends in the middle here. That is basically the algorithm, like short explained, for PUBG. Another thing about kidnapping is that this is the hard part about kidnapping. This is the hard part that requires